Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 4101. Today's date is uh, June 13, 2026. It has been almost like a night at almost like a 10:37 p.m. Okay, today I will not gonna ask any kind of listening question because I have to be say something. Okay, yeah. And that something is a kind of like a very, I don't know. Like usually is this thing, artifact is a kind of like a medium that I use to kind of like express my thoughts and things and that. Okay. So okay, so let me tell you something what exactly happened. I was watching YouTube. I am like watching YouTube a lot. Okay, like basically let me tell you one thing regarding about the YouTube. Okay, um I was like first time I caught kind of like an interaction about YouTube is that he in the YouTube you could able to be listen a music video actually. Okay. um at the beginning means like that key like I was thought that key in the YouTube you can watch any kind of like a video, any kind of like a video. um I still remember in 2014, 13, 14, me and my friend used to go to the internet cafe because at that time internet was kind of like a very fragile. Okay, fragile means like that the internet was very scarcity. Okay, the internet cafe is a kind of like a thing that we used to go there, and if you wanted to download any kind of like a movies or things and that internet cafe is the kind of like a thing. So me and my friend used to go to the internet cafe. Now, if I wanted to download any kind of like some stuff, what is actually stuff that we should supposed to be download? Specifically, songs, movies, okay, music videos, and games. Okay. Now, one thing is that let's talk about the games. Okay, like basically games like my friend who has a PC and he can able to be kind of like a play little bit of game because he has a kind of like a graphics card. So he downloads some game, but usually cannot able to be download because of that most of the games are available in torrent. The problem with the torrent is that you have to be stay for longer period of time. Okay, let me tell you something regarding. Okay, I'm gonna picturize entire scenario regarding about 2013 2014 internet scenario in my local town. Okay, in where I live, Varda, Maharashtra. So I'm gonna try to tell you. Okay, so let's talk about the game first. Okay, so basically, is this thing if you wanted to download the games, basically at that time there is a kind of like a very much popular game, Assassin Creed game. Okay, Assassin Creed, kind of like a something like a Black Flag or NF, Need for Speed Most Wanted. These are kind of like one of the most popular games. Specifically Assassin Creed. I'm not really sure about the Black Flag or something like that, but Assassin Creed. Okay, yeah. Which is kind of like a something game, very popular, and one of my friend is wanted to download that game. Obviously that game is actually available on torrent. Okay, now what is exactly torrent? Torrent is a kind of like a something is this thing that okay, let me tell you. Okay, in the download sequence. Okay, so when you kind of like a watch any kind of like a video on YouTube platform or download any kind of like a video from YouTube platform, so basically is this thing that whatever the kind of like a download manager is downloading video or streaming the video, that video the information actually came from one source. Where what is that source? Data center, YouTube data center, Google data center, where that video save. So it came from information came from that data center and kind of like actually store on your local drive. Okay, yeah. So that is called kind of like a normal way of downloading. Okay, torrent is a very different. Okay, so what is actually torrent do is that the main server file, like a main file, let's just say I wanted to download a kind of like Assassin's Creed game. Okay, so basically that main file is actually kind of like simply uploaded by server. Okay, yeah. Now hundreds of people are kind of like a downloading those games. Okay, so basically what is actually happened, that hundreds of people are kind of like a downloading game. Simultaneously those hundreds of people are actually uploading the game at the same time. Okay, they are uploading, where they are kind of like uploading the game, they are uploading game to the other people who are downloading the games. Okay, and those people are kind of like a downloading, those are also kind of like uploading. So basically is this thing, there is multiple kind of like a source, multiple source, like basically in the YouTube platform, as I mentioned, the only one single source, YouTube data center. Okay, yeah. But if I wanted to download through torrent, so there is a millions of kind of like assembly source, because every person is a kind of like a downloading and every person is kind of like uploading. So each person is kind of like a became individual server. He is also downloading and uploading, downloading and uploading. The problem is that when you download information from one server like a YouTube data center, you will kind of like get very higher speed. Okay, yeah. But in the torrent, you cannot get higher speed. Even if you have kind of like a higher data plan, you cannot get higher speed. Why? Because your download speed is kind of like a depend upon someone upload speed. Okay, yeah. If the uploader are not uploading the game that much, that many higher speed, then you will not gonna get that much higher download speed. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, a movie required me to download from movie from YouTube, which is kind of like a, let's just say 1 GB. It will gonna take maybe kind of like a 10 to 15 minute from higher internet speed. Like in the internet cafe, they have almost like a 1 megabyte per second plan. So I'm kind of like a downloading movie maybe 10 to 15 minute. Okay, yeah. But same 1 GB of game, let's just say Assassin's Creed 1 GB of game, if I wanted to download that game from torrent, it will gonna took me almost like a maybe 2 to 3 hour. Depend, and also I'm not really sure 2 to 3 hour, because it depends upon so many level. It depends upon how many people are actually uploading, how many people are downloading. They call that a seeder and peers. Okay, yeah. If we have higher seeders, means higher people are kind of like uploading, then you will kind of like assembly get higher speed of download. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, you cannot able to be download the game. Okay, yeah. If you wanted to download the game, then you have to kind of like stay in the internet cafe for a longer period of time. That means you have to kind of like pay extra money, because of that internet cafe cost 20 rupees per month, so 20 rupees per hour. Okay, yeah. So and as also, even if you kind of like stay longer period of time, it's not really sure that game will kind of like a download. Maybe kind of like 90% of the download will kind of like happen within an hour, but 10% of the download it will take another kind of like a 2 or 3 hour, because the internet speed is a kind of like a not reliable. Okay, like not because of the internet speed, it's because of the uploading speed, specifically peers and seeders. Okay, yeah. So usually we cannot able to be download the games, literally not. The game that you could able to be download, which is not a torrent. Okay, like if the game is actually available, in a kind of like a one single source of file, like at that time there is a kind of like a Firebase is a kind of like a something, a single source unit where you could kind of like a download the game, or kind of like a something that key mega box or mega size. This is also a server that you could kind of like a download parts of the game. It's not kind of like a take using as a torrent, it kind of like a using as a direct downloading. Okay, which is kind of like somewhat something, because you will kind of like get higher speed, and you are kind of like a downloading game parts by parts, like a zip 1, zip 2, zip 3, zip 4. Okay, and then you extract zip 1, zip 2, zip 3, and then you combine and kind of like a create one ISO file, and then kind of like a, yeah. There is a lot of kind of like we do a lot of kind of like hacks regarding about downloading the game and things like that and that. Why? Because of that key internet is a kind of like a not easily available. Okay. Another thing is that key um the cost of spending money on internet cafe was too much, so basically we have to do all the jugaad and things and that. But still, mostly the games, specifically computer games, are very difficult to download, so we don't really usually download the kind of a computer game. One thing. Another thing is that at that time, most of the kind of like a people doesn't really have graphics card computer, they just have kind of like a inbuilt kind of like a things. They have kind of like a very small games that could able to be support, like a Need for Speed Most Wanted Part 1, that doesn't really require like it kind of like a run on internal Intel graphics GPU. So yeah, but higher game cannot able to download. So basically from game point of perspective, we cannot able to be download that many games. Okay, yeah. Okay, now let's talk about the movie, song, and music video. Okay, so let's talk about kind of like a song. Song is a kind of like a very much essential. We love to kind of like simply download songs, and at that time we are like usually using songpk.com or djmaza.com. These are kind of like simply two websites that you could able to be download songs. Okay, 320 kbps high 320 kbps is a kind of like a audio format, higher resolution, higher kind of like a bitrate format. Okay, so we are kind of like a downloading song pk and dj maza. Okay, these are kind of like a thing. Song pk is a kind of like a Pakistan site probably, and dj maza is also Indian site that you could download Indian movie song or kind of like a remixes and things like that and that. Okay, so songs are really cover. Usually song size are kind of like a very kind of like a convenient. Okay, because the size of kind of like a something songs are like a kind of like a 5 MB to 8 MB or sometimes 3 MB, which is kind of like easily. And even if they have kind of like a zip file, okay, like if I wanted to download a kind of like a somebody movie of Bajrangi Bhaijan song, so I just kind of like select the zip file. Entire song collection is in the zip file, which is cost almost like a 43 MB or 50 MB, which will download within a kind of like a single minute. By the way, we usually use we are not using a kind of like a typical kind of like a default downloader manager. No, like a Chrome and Safari has. No. We are actually using a kind of like a different download manager, internet download manager, IDM. Okay, yeah. IDM is a kind of like one of the best tool to download any kind of like a something, any kind of like a things, like usually YouTube videos and things and that. Specifically YouTube video, because at that time na, this internet download manager, they have kind of like a things that when you play any kind of like a video on YouTube platform, in the bottom right corner there is a kind of like icon, it appear download this video. You click on that, then you kind of like download the kind of like entire video that playing. Okay, it was kind of like a really cool. No any kind of like a download manager have that feature, and that's why we are kind of like using that internet download manager. Also, let me tell you one thing, internet download manager is a kind of like a somebody so kind of like a things like the problem is that na, ki it just try to install, but it install, but it does not kind of like a pop-up and things. It has a kind of like a crack version and things, and that we do a lot of kind of like something things for cracking the kind of like a software and things and that. Yeah, we do kind of like a lot of stuff, whatever. Okay, so basically is this thing, the song are actually cover, we download the song. Now let's talk about the movies. Okay, where we should supposed to be download movies. Okay, now for movies point of perspective, okay, we have a kind of like a something, the a kind of like a platform there where we could kind of like a download movies. Okay, worldforfree.com, worldforfree.com. This is a kind of worldforfree.com. This is a kind of like a website. Right now this website is not kind of like active, by the way, or maybe active, I'm not really sure. But this is a kind of like a some website where we are kind of like a downloading a kind of like a something movies. Okay. Which is kind of like it does not kind of like somebody like it does not have any kind of like a somebody that key like a torrent, nothing really at all. You just click it, one single source of server, you just click it, it download. Okay. The problem is that this website, it's so buggy, so many advertisement, so many things that, oh my god, literally you just click it, it does not like a basically you kind of like a realize, okay, this is a kind of like a Bajrangi Bhaijaan movie is actually available to download. I click on the download. Obviously I'm thinking that this button should supposed to be download. No, it kind of like a went into the kind of like a different tab and opened something regarding about the kind of like a spam and things and whatnot. Like basically is this thing, there is a kind of like a so many download buttons over there that you are so confused that which button is a kind of like a work, which button is a kind of like a things. And even if we think that this is the real button, it end up kind of like a some spam button. Okay, yeah. So sometimes we have to kind of like a click it, you have to click multiple times, like a 3 times it kind of like a showing the spam, fourth time it kind of like open the link, actual link. Okay. And sometimes you click on it, then you have to kind of like a wait for 10-second countdown and things, and that 10 second there is a spam message actually happen pop. You kind of like a wait for 10 seconds, then you generate the link, then click the link, open on the next tab, and then it kind of like opens. This is a lot of fuck up thing. Okay. But even after all those things, the downloading speed is a kind of like a much more slower. Okay. Yeah. So basically is this thing, so even if I want to kind of like a download any kind of like a video material, there is only one source that you could download so many things at so much higher speed. And what is actually that platform? YouTube. Because YouTube is a kind of like a platform that you could download music, you could download movies, because there are kind of like a lot of movies are actually uploaded at that time. Okay, right now there is no very less movies are actually uploaded, but at that time there are so many people are actually uploading so many kind of like a movies and things and that, and we just kind of like a downloading movies, just click on it, just this download it, and you can get really higher speed. Okay, yeah. So we usually kind of like a rely on YouTube. So basically what does we do, every time we went to the kind of like internet cafe, we first install the kind of like internet download manager. After I installed internet download manager, it kind of like a crack everything, and then we kind of like a open up the YouTube and kind of like a realize that okay, this is kind of like a site is working. The YouTube icon, the downloading this button, downloading this button is kind of like a working really well. So basically is this thing, when we verify, after we verify, then downloading start. Okay, yeah. We just kind of like simply started downloading movies, videos, music videos, a lot of things. And at that time we are kind of like a downloading like, yeah, like higher resolution things, because this is a kind of like a simply platform where you could download so rapidly. Like you are like basically when I kind of like a click on download, and when I'm saying I'm getting a speed of almost like a 2,563 kb per second. Oh my god, literally this kind of like a number gives me orgasm. At that time, right now it's just like 2 MB 3 Mbps, it doesn't feel like nothing really at all, but at that time this was like, oh my god, literally 1 Mbps. I was like, oh fuck, it felt like that. This is kind of like this like a very nostalgic feeling at that time, whatever. So basically it was that. Okay, now sorry, I was kind of like a went into the very off topic. Okay, so this is how I kind of like a first time I kind of like a experience as a YouTube, as a kind of like a somebody is this thing that key YouTube is a kind of like a thing you could kind of like a somebody download any kind of like a movies or things. Because at that time watching YouTube video, it doesn't really make sense at all. Why? Because you went to the internet cafe for 1 hour, cost almost like a 20 rupees, and if you are kind of like a started watching the kind of like any kind of like a video, it time pass. Instead of just download the movie download every material that you can, and at the home then you kind of like a watch everything. So basically YouTube is I never really watch any kind of like a videos, I just download. Okay, yeah. And at that time there is a kind of like a assembly internet scarcity. Oh, what's the internet scarcity? Okay, so basically is this thing, at that time 2G was kind of like a something that ki manageable, like you could able to be access internet, but speed was kind of like a very less, 2G or maybe GPRS. 3G is a kind of like a very high speed. The problem is that the data is a kind of like a very less, like a probably there is a kind of like a 1 GB per month. If you plan this kind of like a 3G data, 1 GB per month, okay, and the 3G data is kind of like a very fast, like a literally fast, okay. So we have kind of like a setting at that phone. At that time I was kind of like using Samsung S-Duos. This is a kind of like a phone that I was kind of like using, and it has a kind of like a things that I could able to be switch 1G, 2G or 3G. If I when I click the 3G, then internet goes so rapidly, and then I would kind of like suddenly lost all my kind of like a 1 GB of data within a kind of like hour, which is doesn't really right, okay. So usually is this thing we don't really kind of like a put turn on that 3G, and also 3G plan is very expensive. I didn't really kind of like buy the 3G plan. I was kind of like simply go with the just 2G plan, okay. And also is this thing at that time now there is a kind of like a multiple SIM cards are actually available, okay. Multiple SIM card means like that at that time Uninor, Aircel, these are kind of like Idea, these are kind of like SIM cards are kind of like comes with a free, with a kind of like a 3 months of internet free, okay. You just kind of like take this SIM card and turn on the kind of like a mobile phone, like a turn on the kind of like a mobile number, then you could kind of like get 3 months of internet or 1 month of internet for free. So it was like a really amazing. It just kind of like a feel like that ki wow. So we never really kind of like a basically this thing most of the time we have kind of like a dual SIM card phone, okay. I also have dual SIM card phone. So usually one SIM card is a kind of like a permanent SIM card, okay. Yeah, that permanent SIM card, permanent kind of like a number, and the another SIM card is just kind of like a free number, like a basically whatever the kind of like a simply the service provider kind of like a giving you best benefit, take that SIM card, use it for kind of like a 2-3 months till it get free. After it get free, after I use it, throw that. So we usually do this thing. I kind of like somebody use so many SIM card like a Telenor, sorry, Uninor, Aircel, Tata Docomo, okay. Then Reliance, okay. Reliance was also SIM card too, okay. Then kind of like something Idea, Vodafone, Airtel was there, but Airtel was kind of like a super expensive at that time. So yeah, we are not usually using, but usually the free SIM card is a Aircel, Tata Docomo, and kind of like a Uninor. These are kind of like a 3 SIM card operator. They are kind of like giving free data for kind of like a first time user and things, and that, and we are kind of like using it, use for kind of like a 1 month. After I use the 1 month, then through it, that's it, okay. So basically internet was kind of like a very scarcity. We are kind of like a very less of using internet and things and that and that. So basically high speed internet I never really got experience, okay. So this is actually happened till 2016, okay. Because till 2016 the only way to access internet is a internet cafe, okay. Yeah. And rest of the time we are just using kind of like a something just 2G internet, and we are only accessing Facebook, because Facebook is the only website that could load faster and that could able to be kind of like a things. And at that time Facebook was kind of like a very addictive, okay. YouTube was like, it's never really been possible to kind of like simply the stream video on YouTube platform. Why? Because internet speed is kind of like a very less. Even if we have internet, like a switch into the 3G phone, but then kind of like a data will kind of like a loss in very less amount of time. So it's not really feasible, okay. So basically YouTube is never been really accessed, nothing really at all. Just kind of like we are using the Facebook. Like I was kind of like using a Facebook a lot at that time, okay. It was kind of like a really nostalgic moment, but it's kind of like a feel really good, okay. So this is how I kind of like assembly experience regarding about the kind of like assembly YouTube, okay. like why am I kind of like telling this thing? Like literally I was kind of like talking about something else, and I'm kind of like talk about completely different thing or whatever, okay. Right now I'm kind of like into the mood. I wanted to talk about this thing. The weather is kind of like really nice, so okay, let's just say Okay, so this is how I kind of like introduced regarding about the YouTube. By the way, I'm not really sure at that time, like I was completely like I just didn't really knew that ki YouTube is a kind of like a way that people are earn money on YouTube. Like I didn't really knew that. Like I didn't really knew that ki there is a kind of like a people who are uploading video and they are earning money. This kind of like concept is I never really heard of it. Literally, I never like probably if I'm gonna say this thing till 2020, probably 2019. Yeah, like 2019, yeah, 2019 I heard that there are kind of like a bunch of Indian creator who are kind of like established themselves, like a Prajakta Kohli and kind of like a somebody Bhuvan Bham. These are kind of like a very popular kind of like a OG creator, and because of them I realized that ki okay, you could able to be earn money. Okay, but at that time I was never really kind of like a thing that nothing really at all. It's just kind of like a thing that I was kind of like a thinking that ki they may be kind of like a partner with those people, and that's why they are kind of like a creating video. I'm not like earning money from YouTube. This kind of like concept I never really heard till 2020. Like nothing really at all. Maybe I kind of like a heard in 2019 at the late, but probably this kind of a concept it just I never really knew about anything at all. Nothing really new. Okay, one thing, another thing, accessing YouTube. Okay, so since 2016 this is kind of like a scenario regarding about the YouTube. Okay, yeah. After 2016 there is a thing actually happened. Geo came. Geo is comes with a kind of like a very good. Geo is a kind of like a SIM card where kind of like a internet is free. Literally 4G internet free, not 3G. 4G internet for free, for unlimited. It's a kind of like a things that na like a basically we are the kind of like a particular person who are kind of like a somebody using water for very less amount of time, and suddenly someone gave you this is a kind of like a somebody sea of entire water, use it. Like literally kind of like a silly entire sea. I was kind of like a think that oh my god. Okay, but the problem is that ki this is a 4G SIM card, and most of the phone that we have is a 3G phone. Okay, and we don't have a kind of like a 4G phone, so we cannot able to be put that 4G SIM card in 3G phone. So it's not really possible, and because if you're not using 4G SIM card, you cannot able to be you access those kind of like a, some unlimited data and things and that and that. Like in 3G phone, this 4G SIM card does not really work. So it was kind of like a very much challenging and things and that and that. Okay, so at that time they have kind of like a lot of things that you could able to use 4G SIM card on 3G phone by lot of setting and things and that, but still it just doesn't really make sense at all. Okay, so at that time in 2016 also I got a job and I went to Khabarkheda. Okay, and basically is this thing, at that time I decided that I wanted to install the Wi-Fi. Okay, because at that time I was kind of like a living in an apartment. It's my uncle's apartment. They were not living over there. They are kind of like a living in big city. I was the only over there. I was the only one who is kind of like a living over there. Completely kind of like a 2 BHK apartment. I was completely living alone, and I wanted to Wi-Fi because there is no entertainment over there. So basically I installed the Wi-Fi. I called the kind of like a guy who kind of like installed the Wi-Fi. Okay, yeah. Which cost almost like a 500 rupees per month, because at that time I was kind of like earning 500 rupees. I never really kind of like a feel that much, so it's okay. Okay, so basically I installed the Wi-Fi. Okay, also in 2016 I bought the laptop. Okay, I kind of like somebody talked to my father and things, and they kind of like bought me a laptop. Okay, so basically this thing, this is kind of like one of my one of my honeymoon period of my life. Okay, in 2016, let me tell you one thing, I was living alone, 2 BHK house, complete alone. I have Wi-Fi, I have a laptop, no one will gonna bother me. Even if I could able to be watch, I could able to watch 24/7. I have to do a job, and then after that I was completely free. So in 2016 I was just like oh my god, like on the high, and I was kind of like watching so many movies. Like basically my only one thing is that कि I just kind of like download the movie. And now right now I could able to be download movie from torrent, because right now I have unlimited internet plus I have unlimited time. Okay, so unlimited time means like that ki, like basically I started downloading. Okay, yeah, then I went to kind of like office, come back, and I come back and realize that my download are done, all my movies are downloaded. Okay, yeah, I leave my laptop turn on, I kind of like do my thing. So it was kind of like really good. I download so many movies. In that period, also I bought the projector at that time. Okay, I bought the projector, which is cheaper projector, but it worked. Okay, I bought the projector to connect with the laptop, put the headphone, turn on the movie. I am watching the, like, I make my entire apartment as a kind of like a home theater, and I was kind of like watching lot of movies, movies after movies, movies after movies, and like I watched so many movies. Okay, now regarding about the YouTube. Okay, I also kind of like watch lot of YouTube videos too, but still I neverly kind of like simply consider as a kind of like a YouTube as a kind of like a creator platform. Nothing like that at all. I just kind of like watch whatever the video that is kind of like a pop up, which kind of like a look real nice and things. I never really knew. I never really kind of like a subscribe anyone at all. Like basically it doesn't really, like I don't really, I don't even like. I don't even comment. I just kind of like a watch it. Okay, I just watch it. If I don't like it, skip it and things like that. It's kind of like a really great time for me. Okay, at that time, 2016. Okay, now basically what exactly happened, this is kind of like a simply I'm telling you my relationship with the YouTube. Okay, what exactly happened. Okay, then 2017 I kind of like a quit my job, and I decided to kind of like a started doing a CAD courses. Okay, yeah, so CAD courses, and I was kind of like a doing like a, like I came home, and I kind of like a doing my computer aided design courses for almost like 8 months. I was kind of like a doing it that. Okay, and at that time YouTube, like Wi-Fi was gone, internet was kind of like, at that time also I bought Moto G3 second hand phone. Okay, yeah, second hand phone that I bought, which is 4G phone, which is capable enough to kind of like a use Geo 4G SIM card for unlimited internet and things and that and that. And because of this thing I don't really require any kind of like Wi-Fi, because this 4G SIM card comes with a 4G phone with kind of like a hotspot. You could kind of like a became hotspot, and you could use any kind of like a laptop or any kind of like a things to kind of like a make your own Wi-Fi with this kind of like a hotspot feature. So which is really good. Okay, yeah. So I bought this kind of like a simply Motorola G3 second hand phone. Okay, and which is kind of like a 4G phone, which is really good. Okay, and at that time I was kind of like simply doing up and down. Up and down means like that I was kind of like simply living at my hometown, but my courses are actually available in Nagpur city. So I kind of like wake up every single day, kind of like catch the train at 7 a.m, go to the kind of like something like that, go to the Nagpur, then kind of like go to the kind of like a classes at maybe 10:30, then kind of like do the classes for almost like a 2:30 p.m for do the practice and things and that and that. Okay, and then after that I have to be catch kind of like a 5 p.m Vidarbha, then I come home. So this is kind of like a routine I was actually following for 8 months. And after 8 months, December 2017, I got a job in a company. Okay, yeah. And when I got a job, I feel like that, wow, this is kind of like a really amazing feel. Okay, yeah. Now in 2018 specifically, at the beginning of 2018, I got a job, a very new job, and I feel like that it's a kind of like a new phase of my life. Okay, yeah, it's a kind of like I am like a, basically it's not like my previous job where I was kind of like a doing as a kind of like a favor of somebody or things. No, it's a kind of like a real job I earn from my effort and things and that and that. So I feel really good. And as also this kind of like a job, I was kind of like a somebody I wanted that, because like there is a kind of like a computers and things and CAD, and these are kind of like a designs are kind of like a things that it's my kind of like a field of work. So I was kind of like really excited to do a job, and I was kind of like doing a job. And at that time I have a laptop, I have two mobile phone, Motorola Moto G3 and iPhone 6s. By the way, iPhone 6s. Yeah, iPhone 6s. This is the kind of like a phone that I bought. Okay, yeah. Like basically is this thing, the previous job that I was kind of like doing, I kind of like somebody saved some amount of money and I bought the second hand kind of like a something second hand kind of like a phone, iPhone 6s, which cost almost like a 20,000 rupees, 23,000 rupees, something like that. Okay, probably is this thing that ki I didn't save that much amount of money. I save almost like a 15,000 rupees, and another 10,000 rupees I took from my father. Then I bought this phone. Okay. I'm not really sure that ki Motorola Moto 3G is a 4G phone or iPhone is a 4G phone, that is for sure. Motorola, I'm not really sure about that. Okay, yeah. Motorola was still 3G phone. Motorola, no, I'm not really sure. Yeah, it's a kind of like a very confusing because I think I bought the Motorola Moto 3G, sorry, G3 after the iPhone. Yeah, after the iPhone because I bought the iPhone first, iPhone 6s. I bought this in 2017. Okay, and Motorola Moto G3 I bought in 2018. Yeah, pretty sure 2017 and something like that, whatever. Okay, why am I kind of like a mentioning this mobile phone? Because these are kind of like a primary source to kind of like a get the entertainment. I have a laptop, but it's not kind of like a thing that I would open the laptop and things because in 2018 now I was started living with a kind of like a roommates. Okay, and basically roommates is a kind of like a thing. It's not like that you kind of like a leave the open your laptop and kind of like a do your things. No, it's not. Okay, yeah. Like basically we have a cupboard. Okay, and in that cupboard we put the laptop over there and just kind of like a things and just do your work. And at that time, office hour is a kind of like a really fuck shit, dude. I was kind of like spending almost like a 10-11 hour in the office and things. It doesn't really make sense at all, whatever. But soon as at that time I kind of like get free time, I kind of like somebody watch videos on YouTube platform. Yeah, I was kind of like watching YouTube on that time, but just kind of like for the entertainment purpose. And during this period of time I was kind of like somebody experience a kind of like a OG creator, Bhuvan Bham, Prajakta Kohli, like a Ashish Chanchlani. These are kind of like OG creator. I was kind of like experiencing. I was kind of like watching those video. Also, there is a kind of like a lot of web series are also uploaded or published in a kind of like a something YouTube platform. Specifically, Kota Factory, first season Kota Factory, then and lot of kind of like a filter copy, then kind of like a lot of kind of like a channels are kind of like somebody like a rise up, which kind of like a create a lot of kind of like a very good stories and things and that on YouTube platform. I was love to watch those things. It was really good, really great. Okay, but mainly YouTube is I kind of like consume for just the entertainment purpose. It kind of like a felt really good. Okay, and basically this is all actually happened. Then COVID actually happened. COVID happened. Then kind of like I lost my job. I came home, and when I came home, then basically is this thing. Then I was kind of like using YouTube a lot regarding about every possible scenario because when I came home, when I lost my job, the only one thing that I wanted to do is I already decided that I wanted to become a filmmaker. But the problem is that how do I supposed to get the information regarding about how do I become that? So YouTube is only one source that I am kind of like utilizing for every possible things. That how do I become script writer? How do I supposed to write the script? How do I supposed to started doing editing? I was kind of like learn editing on YouTube platform. There is a kind of like a channel I highly recommend also, JFX Mentor. JFX Mentor is a kind of like a somebody YouTube channel which I learn editing. Okay, how to edit it. I download the Premiere Pro crack version on my laptop, started doing editing, started doing things and that from like a kind of like a some stuff. Okay, which kind of like a really good. Okay, and in 2020 when I lost my job, I was kind of like decided that let's make a short film because at that time like a basically producer kind of like a mentioned that I was kind of like a calling every Bombay producer to kind of like make me kind of like a work on ad agency. So I was kind of like a calling them, but they kind of like mentioned that ki because of the COVID we are not kind of like a fulfilling any kind of like a stuff, we are kind of like a, but still he kind of like mentioned that ki like you have free time, so utilize this free time, make a lot of short movies, and show these short movies to the kind of like a ad agency producer, so that they will kind of like judge you about your credibility, and they will kind of like give you job regarding about that. So it was really good. So I thought that ki, okay, let's make a kind of like a show reel, short film things, and that I was kind of like making a lot of short films, okay, at that time. Then kind of like a bunch of show reels. Hyperlapse is also one of them, okay. Hyperlapse is a kind of like a technique that I learned from YouTube, and I try to implement that, and I did implement. I make kind of like a lot of hyperlapse videos, which kind of like a some mixture of kind of like a a lot of kind of like a some photos that you kind of like attach, and then you kind of like create a like very rapid kind of like a video motion, which is kind of like a really cool to watch. I kind of like created that video, which is really good. I got so much response. Like basically is this thing. Now this is a kind of like a hyperlapse video I created and I uploaded on kind of like a YouTube and Instagram platform. And in the Instagram platform, things are blown out. Literally, just like 10,000 people kind of like a watch. So many kind of like a comments, likes, and people are kind of like a putting on their status. I was like, oh my god, I was feel like that. Ki I kind of like a get succeeded, but then it just like it does feel like that, no, it's not. Like basically consistency is a kind of like a really essential. By the way, I was kind of like uploading my content on YouTube platform, but not because of kind of like suddenly became a creator, no. I was kind of like uploading my kind of like a video just for kind of like a resume, okay, yeah, so that I would supposed to be kind of like a showcase to the producer that this kind of like a video that I made, look into this and things and that. So I was kind of like doing it that, okay. And then what exactly happened, then kind of like I realized that ki, like basically in March 2021 I got kind of like got a job, I got an opportunity to work with a kind of like some real kind of like a web short film people, okay. Like basically always wanted to become filmmaker and things and that. So basically I kind of like got opportunity to kind of like work on with the kind of like some researcher people who are kind of like assembly carrying the same interest regarding about me as a filmmaking. So I was kind of like went to the Jaipur, I started working over there, okay. But I was so underperforming that key I was not really sure. Like basically this is kind of like a things that now I was kind of like expecting to be a kind of like I would kind of like a rock everybody. But when I went to the stage, I realized that how pathetic I was. Like I was cannot able to be record the audio. Like this is a kind of like a job that my director kind of like gave me, that you have to record the audio, and that audio is not even kind of like utilizing. It's a kind of like a thing that audio should supposed to be just a kind of like a background layer to kind of like a just understand. Then dubbing, they will kind of like a create the dubbing and things and that. So my job is to kind of like a create the backup audio, or kind of like a let them people kind of like a let them actor kind of like a hear what they are kind of like a saying. That's it. I cannot able to do this thing. I cannot able to be use Audacity. I cannot able to be kind of like a set up the loud mic and things and that. It was kind of like something so stupid and so things that I just fuck, like a literally fuck. And I realized that. And also this is not just thing. My technical understanding regarding about the filmmaking was kind of like a really nothing really at all. Another thing is that na ki while you are making the filmmaking, you are really required a confidence. If you don't really have a confidence, then you are doomed, by the way. Because let me tell you one thing, in the corporate sector, probably you might not kind of like a feel that much kind of like a someone kind of like a dominate you. But in the movie, if you are not kind of like a confident, someone will kind of like really crush you. Because dude, that is a kind of like a really hard work. Like a filmmaking is a kind of like a thing. I thought that ki it's so dreamy, so crazy, so amazing people and things and that. But in real consequence scenario, it would be so much fuck. Like literally, now I was kind of like a feeling like super shit, like literally super shit. Like I realized that ki I was completely things. And even if I am like at that time my age was almost like a 28, and I was kind of like wanted to be filmmaker, and my performance is kind of like a this low. And if I kind of like went to the Bombay, my of my chances would being successful is almost like a zero, even less than zero. There is no possibility that I would kind of like succeed and things and that. I realized that it's not really good. Okay, yeah, even if I went to Bombay, even if I kind of like asked my money to my father and kind of like simply went to the Bombay, my success rate is almost 0%, even less than that. So it is never really possible. So I decided that YouTube. Why YouTube? Because YouTube is a kind of like a things that it kind of like a make me do my mistake, but it also kind of like a make me do my mistake, and I have to be learn from it. Because if I kind of like a make mistake in kind of like a someone project, then I would have to be bear that particular person pressure and things and that. But if I mistake in my own project, then I would learn from it, and I would kind of like improve from it. Because if I kind of like make mistake in someone else project, I would get lot of stress, and that stress will kind of like kill me from inside. So I decided that key, instead of kind of like working for somebody, let's work for ourselves. Okay, yeah, right now I am not a kind of like a some particular person who kind of like do all those kind of like somebody that key like things. Okay, even if I'm even if I'm taking my life risk, then I would kind of like decided that ki, let's take risk by my own. Okay, so in 2020, August 21, 2021, August 2021, I started my YouTube create. I kind of like suddenly decided as a YouTube creator, and I kind of like decided that uploading content and became a kind of like a YouTuber and things and that. And whenever kind of like I get the opportunity, I will kind of like become the filmmaker. And since then, this is, by the way, this is not over yet. By the way, okay, I was kind of like simply creating content. Now may my main kind of like a purpose of kind of like a simply started is this thing, that key I wanted to earn money, at least like a some certain amount of money, so that I was supposed to be survive and things and that. So I was kind of like a creating videos. Okay, yeah. Specifically, I was kind of like a focus on travel filmmaking video, because these are kind of like a somewhat something associate with my kind of like a taste and things and that. I was trying to do this thing, but the problem is that I don't really have that many kind of like things. Another thing is that now travel means you have to travel. Obviously, I don't really have that much amount of money and things and that. And also kind of like a creating content on that particular genre is also kind of like a very much difficult, because I am not really sure how do I supposed to do this thing. Okay, because let me tell you one thing now, let me tell you one thing. I understand at that time, I understand that you could able to be earn money from YouTube platform, but I never really kind of like a became a kind of like a viewer of YouTube. Let me tell you one thing. There is a one thing. Okay, yeah. You, when you are not a viewer of YouTube, you cannot become a creator. Okay, let me tell you one thing. Why is viewer is really essential? Because when you watch a lot of YouTube videos, you kind of like realize how many YouTube videos are actually available, what kind of like a genre and category of the YouTube videos are actually exist and things and that. I was never really kind of like a watch YouTube videos, or I never really explore anything at all. I just kind of like a click on such a random video that I love to watch and things and that. Like basically there are so many kind of like a good amount of YouTube videos are actually available regarding about science, regarding about business, regarding about economics, regarding about study, regarding about filmmaking. I never really knew anything about that at all. And I was kind of like a so stupid shit and things and that. But why am I kind of like a telling this kind of like a life story? I don't know why, but it just kind of like a feel like that I'm just trying to tell, so that's why I'm kind of like a try to telling. Okay, yeah. What exactly you were seeing with the YouTube? What exactly you were seeing with the YouTube? What do you kind of like a thing? Uh Till now I am actually uploading my content on YouTube platform. I make a lot of huge mistake, by the way. Okay, let me tell you one thing. Kind of like let's come to the story. Okay, yeah. So I was kind of like a creating video, which kind of like took me almost like a 2 months to create one video, that travel video, and things and that, which is kind of like a really exhausting stress and things, because after I kind of like put 2 weeks of effort, and I'm getting almost like a 10 views and kind of like a one like and zero comment. It felt like that ki really heartbroken and things. I kind of like a get a lot of stress and things and that and that. At that time, my laptop is a kind of like a do lot of kind of like a fucked up shit. It just kind of like it's not working every single time because my laptop doesn't really have any graphics card at that time. So it's very much difficult for me to kind of like execute any kind of like a videos and things and that. But I just trying to do this thing, try to figure it out and something like that. Then what exactly happened, that key I bought another laptop. Okay, yeah. October 2021, I bought a laptop which has a kind of like a dedicated graphics card. Okay, and which has a kind of like a dedicated graphic card, which is kind of like really helped me to kind of like a create my YouTube videos because Premiere Pro actually working really well. But I utilized for wrong purposes. I downloaded the game, I started playing the game, and because I'm started playing the game, I also consuming kind of like a gaming content. And when I realized that there is a kind of like a some mythpad gaming creator who kind of like achieve 1 million subscriber in a year, I was kind of like a doom. I was kind of like feel like that. What the fuck is this thing? Gaming content is that much kind of like something popular, and I seen lot of crazy people. Like basically there is a kind of like a gamer guy, techno gamer, who has a kind of like a 35 million follower. 35 million subscriber on YouTube platform. I was like, what the fuck? 35 million. Like literally the OG creator, Prajakta Kohli and kind of like a somebody Bhuvan Bham, they might not achieve 10 million at that time. And this guy achieved 35 million. I was like, what the fuck? And there is also another gamer guy, total gamer, who has almost like a 45 million subscriber. My head is blown. Like literally this kind of like a number, I haven't really seen that stuff. Like basically I only see that number to the Mr. Beast, but I never really kind of like expect that a gaming content creator, specifically Indian gaming content creator, who are kind of like have this massive following. I decided that dude, gaming is a kind of like a future and things and that. I started making gaming content creation, and this was kind of like one of my biggest mistake of my life. Like basically I was kind of like doing YouTube for last 5 year, and 2.5 year of my life is kind of like a gone by this gaming content creator. Because being in a kind of like a gaming content creator, I kind of like a mistake a lot of mistake. Like 2.5 year of this thing is actually gone, and after 2.5 year I realized that I am not a gaming content creator because I don't really have that kind of like a thing. Because is a gaming content creator, you have to be funny, you have to be kind of like a feel kind of like a somebody like a entertain and things and that, and I'm not that particular guy. I'm not kind of like a somebody entertainer, I'm not kind of like a funny and things. And 2.5 year of my life is actually gone because of the gaming content creator. But still is this thing that na ki it's a kind of like one of my biggest regret. But still I learn from it. Like sometimes you know that ki what exactly that you made of and what exactly you are not made of. So yeah, then I started kind of like after 2.5 year of my life in a kind of like a May 2024, I started kind of like creating back to my original content creation. Okay, yeah, but in this time, instead of kind of like a focus on travel filmmaking, I focus on photography, then Photoshop. Okay, yeah, graphic designing this piece of content. Okay, yeah, and it's working. Like it's not really working. Like I kind of like I'm since then like basically like I started this kind of like assembly that key Photoshop photography kind of like assembly content in May 2024. Okay, yeah, and since then I'm kind of like uploading every single day. And right now it's been almost like a June 2026. It's been almost like a 2 year, and within a 2 year I have almost like a 1600 subscriber on YouTube platform. And yeah, but right now I realize something very different. Okay, yeah, like basically it's this thing na ki I kind of like went through so many phases of my life regarding about who do I wanted to become. I wanted to become filmmaker, then YouTuber, then gamer, then kind of like a travel filmmaker, then right now again YouTuber, and right now I am kind of like focusing on building my application. I am also uploading my content on YouTube platform. I kind of like using AI to kind of like create my content, which is I upload every single day. like it's scheduled every single day, but right now I'm mainly focused on app building and things and that. Within this 5 year of my life, I learned so many things about myself. Like so many things. There are so many kind of like a changes actually happened. From physical point of perspective, nothing really happened. I am completely kind of like a homeless, like completely kind of like a pathetic. I'm not really earning any money. Like basically, sometimes I kind of like somebody just ashamed of myself that things and that. But the amount of value that I get from this last 5 years since COVID, it's just so much. I learn a lot. I understand the artifact. I understand the what could I able to be do. Like basically, before I wanted to become a filmmaker, YouTuber, or gaming content creator, or whatnot. But with the artifact that I was kind of like a recording since 2015, it's been almost like 11 year, and I never really knew that I could able to be kind of like a build this application, and from that application I could kind of like a give the same value to the billions of user. And not only I just able to be earn money, I could able to be earn value. I will kind of like give them value to the society and things and that. And when I realized that, oh my god, I kind of like a focus on this thing first. I realized something very important in my life. I know I am not a kind of like a particular person who achieve a lot of things. Definitely not. I am still pathetic. I'm still not earning any money. But one thing I realized that na ki you are not really sure who do you want to become. Like even if you are kind of like a very much confident that who do you want to become, still not really sure because you haven't really seen the path. Life is very big, like a very so many stuff. Every day is a kind of like a new challenge, new things, and that new challenge and new thing kind of like a taught you something. And I kind of like a something learn from so many mistakes, so many things, and so many stuff. My thoughts change, my process change, my like a way that thinking change through the artifact, through this thing, and lot of stuff. Like I don't know, like basically when I record the artifact, I never really kind of like decided that I will kind of like a became a kind of like a somebody build the application on artifact that people will kind of like a record and things and that. By the way, I got the idea in 2024. Okay, yeah, in 2024 I kind of like got the idea that what if I could kind of like build the application, but I never really kind of like somebody take work on it because I am not a coder. I cannot able to be kind of like a somebody learn Android coding. I started learning coding, but it kind of like always feel like that key out of my syllabus and things and that. But since AI agent came, since AI came, I realized that I could able to be kind of like a build my application and things and that. Now, basically, there is a one question that I have to ask: the stuff that you are kind of like a doing right now, is it worth it? Is it kind of like a things? Well, let me tell you one thing. I wanted to become a YouTuber. Am I uploading my content on YouTube platform? Yes, every single day. I am kind of like a building artifact application. Am I building the artifact application? Yes, every single day. I am doing it. Now, basically, I'm actually focused on a kind of like a process, focus on kind of like a make my work good, better, and things and that. I know that one day I will kind of like achieve my success and goals and things and that. But right now this artifact is kind of like a somebody I'm gonna tell you my relationship with the YouTube, and this is how I kind of like a something I kind of like a grown on YouTube, like understand the YouTube and things and this is how I kind of like a relationship. Because let me tell you one thing now, whatever the kind of like a somebody the knowledge and information that I get throughout my entire life, YouTube is a kind of like only one source that kind of like a consumes so much amount of thoughts. Artifact is that like a basically if I'm gonna say that ki artifact, like basically artifact is a kind of like a things that I just kind of like a blunt out and kind of like a simply let that thoughts, let that knowledge kind of like a simply became even more better and things and that. But the YouTube is a kind of like a things, a source where I am kind of like on lot of amount of kind of like a information and knowledge and things and that. Even if I'm gonna say 100% of knowledge that I have, almost like a more than 80% of that knowledge came from the YouTube. Yeah. Regarding about everything, regarding about the knowledge, science, everything. It's been almost like a 59-minute. I'm kind of like a talking right now this shit, but I don't know. I feel like really good. Like basically, since the monsoon came today, kind of like a rain actually happened, and I feel like that. Let's explore things. All right, this is it. This is it. I have to bend here, and thank you.